Spring is here, and we have to start the season right with 6 weeks of Stoke, a skateboarding workshop brought to you by Together Philly and Live Supply, geared to help everyone understand skateboarding. This program will run every Saturday and Wednesday, starting April 12th through May 17th. So you have to act fast because there's limited spots available. To sign up for the workshop and get more information, email Together Philly at hello@togetherskateboarding.com or stop by their shop in Brewerytown at 1301 North 27th Street. Hey, today on CityCast Philly, long gone are those days of opera being sort of this fancy, bougie, kind of out of reach experience. Here in the city, Opera Philadelphia is revolutionizing what it means to see opera. My guest today, Anthony Roth Costanzo, General Director and President of Opera Philadelphia, is going to share some big news. He's going to announce for the first time on CityCast Philly their new spring program. So keep listening. It's Thursday, April 3rd. I'm Trinae Nuri, and here's what Philly's talking about. Anthony, before we get into all of that, kind of taking it back to the basics, I was thinking, wait, what is the difference between an opera and a musical?
That's such a great question. And, opera's basically just sung through, and that means there's not dialogue usually. It's just singing. But actually, the way we sing is with this kind of Olympic technique. I call opera singing the Olympics of singing because it uses the voice in the most extreme way. So there are no microphones in opera. It's just acoustic. And the Academy of Music, if you've been in there, that's over 2,000 seats. So, we have to use our breath and our voices in a way that really projects to the whole auditorium. So it's a different way of singing, a different technique, and also the pieces themselves are music all the way through. And that's basically it. Otherwise, it is the beginning of musical theater.
I love it. Okay, we gotta talk about these $11 tickets that you're selling. $11 for opera? I mean, why did you lower the tickets to that price? And why $11 specifically?
Well, I really believe in art as a civil right, not just, art as a luxury. I want everyone to come try opera. And why would you try something and spend $150 if you didn't know anything about it, right?
I wish restaurants could do that too.
I know, exactly. And, I really wanted to get the support from the people who love opera to pave the future and open it up to everybody. And so we worked to make opera tickets pick your price starting at $11. And, the reason I chose 11, there are many reasons. We have to give a percentage to the opera house that we're in. I didn't want them to be free because sometimes I know when I sign up for something free, I don't show up. So I wanted it to cost something, but at the same time, we're always hearing tickets starting at $25 or $15, these round numbers. And I wanted the price itself to be its own brand. And when I was looking at the word Philly and I saw those two L's, I was like, that looks like $11. And I think we should just make it $11. I feel like that's the price. And now it's become its own brand and everyone talks about the $11 tickets. So I'm excited about it.
Anthony, how do the finances of this actually work? $11, I see it's used as a marketing tool, but how do you pay for the singers, the musicians, and the crew?
Well, opera is expensive. You've got an orchestra of 50 or 60 people. You've got a chorus of 30, 40, 50, and then you've got all the singers and the unions and the sets and costumes. It's very expensive. But at the end of the day, the model in opera is changing. And, we weren't making more than 8% of our revenue on ticket sales before. And the houses were half empty sometimes. And I wanted those houses to be full. I think the value is not so much in the price of the ticket, but in the experience you have and being in a room full of people, feeling that excitement, communicating through art. That's where the value is. And so I thought to myself, okay, well, we're going to lose a little bit of money on ticket sales, but we might sell more. And in fact, we became the only sold out opera company for the entire season in America. And every show was sold out, packed with a different audience, 67% first-time ticket buyers. In our first performance, we looked at a survey and 69% were under 45. Across all demographics from age and race and income, we were dramatically changed overnight. And that inspired our funders. And we really wanted to continue to inspire our funders. Those are individuals who give money. Those are foundations who want to support the work that we do, and also corporations. The other thing is that access to art, that is connected to social justice. And that is what we firmly believe in. It's not just about making the art and putting it on stage. It's about how that art touches people, touches community, affects those people's lives. And that was something we felt people could get behind. And in fact, a lot of our ticket buyers, for $11, they made donations, or they chose a higher price. They chose the $20 ticket instead of the $11 ticket because they wanted to be a part of what I think is a movement. And so it's really been exciting to see how much people responded to it.
You just mentioned that this kind of being a movement. Would you say that there's an opera renaissance going on in Philly? What's happening?
I was talking to someone who had come to the opera the other day, and he said, I've lived in Philly all my life, and I haven't heard anybody talk about the opera as much as they have this year. And that made me feel happy. It is an opera renaissance, and this season that we have coming up, it shows you that opera can be everything. It can be what you least expected. It can incorporate all of these different voices, both literally and figuratively, that are telling stories that connect to you. It's not just this old dusty thing that exists in your imagination as an elitist sort of art form. So I think that's what we're trying to show in Philly, and that's what we're all about at Opera Philadelphia.
Anthony, walk me through some opera etiquette. What's the dress code? Is it black tie? Do you have to get fancy, wear a fancy gown to the show?
You can wear whatever you want. I find that people like to dress up. I know myself, I like to dress up. But when the Eagles were in the Super Bowl and I had to give my pre-curtain speech, I found a girls' youth large sequined Eagles jersey, and that's what I wore to the opera, and I loved it. So I encourage you to wear whatever you're feeling to the opera. I think that I love to see how people dress up. People like to go on date night and all of that, and they wear crazy things, and it's fun to see that at the opera. But if you're coming from work and, you're wearing your work clothes or whatever, we don't care. We welcome you to Opera Philadelphia. There is no dress code, and that makes it fun.
Now, are some of the shows sung in different languages?
We sing operas in all different languages, and sometimes it's in Italian, for example, but there's always little projections. We call them super titles across the stage that translate it word by word. So as you look at the stage, you see it. But even more than that, people go, well, I don't like to read the super titles. But as you watch this take place in front of you, you see a couple kiss, and then you see them argue. You can kind of see what's happening. And in opera, there's not so many words. It's not like a film that you lose track of it. And I find that myself, even if I don't understand the language of an opera, I can tell what's going on stage. So, it's actually a super fun experience to see it and to hear the music. And it's the music that tells the story more than anything.
How long are the performances?
It ranges, in our upcoming season, a lot of them are 90 minutes or less. You just, no intermission, you just come in, you get out. Sometimes you have an opera that goes up to 3 hours, but that has an intermission and there's bars and snacks and you can take your drinks into the opera. So it becomes kind of a whole evening. And there's rarely an opera that's more than, an hour and 15 minutes at a time that you take in per act. So, sometimes you have 2 acts that are an hour and 15 minutes each, then you add the intermission and then it's a 3-hour evening. And those are the longer ones, but you'll see that the majority of our productions are actually under 90 minutes this season.
All right, well, we'll talk about that upcoming season with Opera Philadelphia and some big news. You don't want to miss this. That's after the break.
Lowe's knows member-only doorbuster deals make SpringFest savings even better. Right now, rewards members can get 3 19.3-ounce Bonnie Plants vegetables and herbs for just $10. Plus, save $50 on a Charbroil Performance Series 4-burner grill, now $149. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 4/7, excludes Alaska and Hawaii. Selection varies by location, subject to change. While supplies last. Program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms.
Get ready for Netflix's gripping new medical drama, Pulse. Set in a cutting-edge Miami trauma center, third-year resident Dr. Danny Sims is unexpectedly thrust into a promotion when beloved chief resident Dr. Xander Phillips gets suspended. Then, with the emotional and physical stakes at their highest, a storm will push the hospital and its residents to their limits. Witness how life can change in a heartbeat when you're operating under pressure. Watch Pulse, only on Netflix.
Anthony, tell me about this new season, which you are announcing for the first time on our show today. It opens in September at the Academy of Music, which is, by the way, the oldest opera house in the country. You call it genre defying. Why is that, and what does that mean?
You know, I think we're trying to understand what is opera. You were asking me, how does it compare to musical theater? You know, like, opera can be everything. Opera is these cathartic moments in our life, these dramatic, emotional moments we all feel. And we can't just speak them. We have to sing them over an orchestra at large volume, you know. So that's really what opera is. And what we're trying to do is say, hey, you know, opera was created as a collision of lots of different things, of theater, of poetry, of dance. There's fashion in the costume design, there's art in the set design. So we're trying to really lean into that collaboration and define the genre in new ways. So the first thing we're doing is a big gala that everyone's invited to with pick your price tickets called Vox Ex Machina. And that is where we've worked with Drexel through a course they created to create a machine that paints a canvas in direct response to the voice. So like the volume and pitch. I know, it's nuts. And so what you're going to see if you come to the gala is these amazing singers singing opera, and each song or aria that they sing becomes its own painting before your eyes. So that's going to be really crazy.
Wait, a machine like a robot?
It has elements of a robot, basically. I mean, it's not an actual robot, but it's like an arm that responds to the data from the pitch and volume and other variables of the voice. And then those variables tell it how to actually maneuver on this canvas, working with a live artist as well. So it's going to be really fascinating. It's both analog and digital and advanced at the same time.
That is so cool. Okay, there's going to be a show where there are bubbles.
So one of the operas we're doing is using music by Vivaldi. You know, Vivaldi wrote the Four Seasons and lots of other things that are really beautiful.
Oh, that's a classic.
That's a classic piece of music. And Vivaldi was really interested in the connection between the weather and emotion. And we've taken his music and made a whole piece about the weather and emotion. And in our discourse about climate these days, one thing that's left out is our emotional connection to the weather. How does it affect us as human beings? Yes, we should recycle, and yes, there's politics, but like, we lose the human part of it. And this show connects us back to that. And in our effort to not make the set have a big carbon footprint, we are working with dish soap and using it to make all of these effects. So we're sending helium into soapy water and making this sud that floats up and it looks like upside down snow. Or we're filling bubbles with fog and they float out over the stage and then they pop and it looks like a cloud. So we've come up with the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, with all of these super cool new ways to use dish soap as a set. And it's going to be super awesome. And that's going to be in the Perlman Theater in December. And it's called The Seasons, with the famous playwright Sarah Rule making the story, and dance by choreographer Pam Tanowitz. It's going to be awesome.
Anthony, we have to add scientists to your resume. And you're actually a part of The Seasons, right?
It's true. I sang the first time at the Academy of Music when I was 14 years old with Luciano Pavarotti, the famous opera singer. And I've come back 4 or 5 other times before I ran the company. So everyone's been asking, are you going to sing with Opera Philadelphia now that you're the general director? And the answer is yes. I'm going to sing in the seasons. And I can't wait because I get to sing with our orchestra. I get to sing with our company and be a part of a show at the company I run. That's so unusual. I don't know any other opera companies where the leader of the company is also singing in the show. And it's going to be really, really fun for me. It also puts me on the same level as everybody else, which I like. Obviously, I got to run things and make decisions, but I like to know what it is to be on the inside and be in it with the artists and with the crew and the team making the show.
All right. Well, let's hear a little bit from the seasons. What other shows can we expect in this season?
Well, the season opens with a big show by Rossini, this amazing Italian composer, and it's called Viaggio a Reims. And basically, we have this famous director from Europe who's won all the awards, but he's never been in America. And he made a hilarious production that's set in an art museum, and all the pieces of art start coming to life. And it is a super fun, beautiful, bubbling opera that I think everyone would enjoy. It's a comedy. And that'll be in September for 4 performances at the Academy of Music. We're also doing something really wild that I don't think has ever been done before.
So not like with the robots and the bubbles and the art coming to life. There's more.
There's more. We're doing a world premiere. Operas are being written every day. They're being written right now, but they take a long time. And I wanted our 50th anniversary season. This is the 50th anniversary of Opera Philadelphia. And we wanted to celebrate it with a big world premiere. So I asked the amazing theater maker, Michael R. Jackson, who won the Pulitzer and the Tony Award for his play A Strange Loop, which came to Philly. And I asked him, would you write a new story? And would you write it in 10 different pieces? And he said, yeah, I'm going to write it about a woman named Sue, and it's going to be called Complications in Sue. And it's going to be 10 different decades from her life. And each decade is written by a different composer. So we have all these amazing composers from Opera Philadelphia's history, like Missy Mazzoli and Nico Muhly. And we have composers who are new to Opera Philadelphia, people like jazz singer Cecile McLaurin-Salvant, who's an amazing composer who's also writing a piece, and the incredible flutist and Philadelphia resident Nathalie Joachim, who's in residence at MoMA as the composer. She's coming over to write for us. She's going to be our composer in residence. So we have all these amazing composers, and you're going to have 10 different world premieres as part of one opera in the same night. And that's going to be an exciting night called Complications Ensue for 4 days in February at the Academy of Music.
February of 2026.
You got it. We plan ahead in opera, and you should too, because these pick your price tickets, they sell out so fast. So I want you all to be able to get them. And that brings me to one thing I want to tell you about, which is a new program we have called Opera Pass, which it allows you for $11 a month to get those cheap tickets first. You can get your front row, you can get your box seat, all those desirable tickets. You want to impress your boyfriend, you get those tickets early and you say, guess what? We're sitting in the 3rd row at the Academy, and it only costs you $11. So you get your Opera Pass, you support us by paying $11 a month, and then you get invited to all kinds of events. You're going to get discounts to the orchestra, to Broadway here in Philadelphia. You're going to get all kinds of perks. So I encourage people, if you want to get these tickets before they go, join Opera Pass, come and support us at the opera.
That's wonderful. Anthony, tell me about the show The Black Clown.
The show The Black Clown is one of the best things I've ever seen. The incredible opera singer Devon Tynes took a Langston Hughes poem called The Black Clown and made it into a musical explosion full of vaudeville and opera and spirituals. And it really looks at the Black experience over the past 250 years. And as we go into the 250th and start thinking about this country we live in, I thought there was nothing better than this interrogation and exploration through music and through art of the Black experience to look at America. And Devon and his collaborators like Zach Winokur have made an incredible experience. And it is both exalted and exuberant, but also creates a kind of dissonance, especially existing within this context of opera, which is a very white space traditionally, right? And so to take this Langston Hughes poem, which is written to ask, the first line of it is, "You laugh because I'm poor and Black and funny." And to take that poem and then spin it into a whole show that looks at that experience in this context, I think will be incredibly powerful, as well as being beautiful and entertaining and moving. I saw it before the pandemic. It had a couple performances at Lincoln Center, and I was elated and I cried and I thought it was so amazing. And it was headed to Broadway before the pandemic happened. And so Opera Philadelphia wants to bring it back and put it back on a trajectory to go many, many places. So see it here first.
Anthony, thank you so much for joining me on CityCast Philly today.
I'm thrilled to talk to you, and thank you for putting a spotlight on opera.
So we're going to go out on the song called Freedom from the show The Black Clown, based on the poetry of Langston Hughes. We'll have all the info about buying tickets in our show notes. That's all for today here on CityCast Philly. Aren't you excited about these $11 tickets? Make sure you grab them and tell a friend. Rate this episode, leave us a review, and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to sign up for our morning newsletter, Hey Philly, to learn more about what else Philly's talking about. We'll be back tomorrow morning with the Friday News Roundup. Bye.